Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons. This is Forged from Iron, and this is the big debate. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. We thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, for a pilot episode. It might crash and burn before it takes off, or then again, maybe there's a little bit more life in it than that. We are here for the big debate. We have got a panel of 4 individuals, and I will allow them to introduce themselves personally. So, Budgie, over to you.
Hi, I'm Budgie from Greenstreet Elites, and looking forward to this evening's show. Thanks for the invite, Rob.
And then we've got Irish Tommy.
Evening. As Gates said, I'm Irish Tommy, host of the Late Show with Irish Tommy on Friday nights on the West Ham Network.
And we've got Mr. James Feaver.
Hello, everyone. James is the name. E20 Zone TV is the place to find me. And looking forward to this. I really am.
And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, making his Forged from Iron debut, other than obviously when you've done little video questions, Mr. Lee Kearley.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, my name's Lee Kearley from the South London Hammers.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Right, so let's get straight into it. That's the wrong banner, Rob. There you go. We've got our first question. This one is from Fritz, who is a Hammers Chat Patreon, an addict level Patreon. So, Fritz, over to you.
Good evening, fellow Hammers fans. My name is Fritz, and I've been a fan since 1969. My question for the panel is, why do West Ham fans show such hatred to the likes of Paul Ince, Frank Lampard Jr. and Jermaine Defoe? Their so-called crimes, I would like to think of them as mistakes, were committed when they were quite young. They were probably each around the age of 20 when they left the club. And they've left quite a while ago now. So I kind of feel that we should let bygones be bygones. Forgive, if not necessarily forget. I would welcome each and every one of them back to the club. Personally, if it was within my power, I would employ them in important roles within the club. In coaching, because I think each of them are very, very capable. I would see it as a way of them repairing the relationship with the fans. And in the case of Frank Lampard Jr., I think he would be a good fit as manager of the club. Certainly better than Moisey is doing at the moment. I think he has an understanding of the workings of the club. I think he has the club as part of his DNA. And even though he spent so many years at Chelsea, I think if you were to ask him, he would probably say that he's a West Ham boy at heart. So why not? Thank you for listening.
Well, he's gone in 2-footed there, hasn't he, chaps? I'll just put me in the middle there. I'll be the judge of the proceedings. Budgie, is it time to let bygones be bygones, or are we holding a grudge a little bit too long with some of these guys?
Look, judging them by the mistakes or the crimes, as Fritz so eloquently put it, judging by them, yeah, bygones be bygones. But as far as letting Frank Lampard anywhere near West Ham United as a coach or as a manager, get out of town. It ain't happening. As far as I'm concerned, keep that man as far away from the club as possible.
How about yourself,
Wouldn't mind
Tommy?
having Carrick, though.
Ooh, and Kenny's decided to join in, Tom.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts? Are we holding a grudge a bit too long? You know, I mean, Paul Ince was a long, long time ago.
Nah, fuck him. I've got no love for any of them. I don't care. I've got no love for any of them. Call it petty if you want. I certainly don't want Lampard being manager. I don't want him at the club. Look, I don't think about Paul Ince from day to day. I don't think about Jermaine Defoe from day to day. I don't think about Lampard day to day generally, although at the moment, because he's Everton manager, you know, he's kind of in your face a bit more. But, you know, grudge-wise, I don't really think about it. It's not like, you know, I don't go to bed cursing their names and struggling to get to sleep because of them. But I just didn't like the way they conducted themselves. So maybe I'm petty, but Jermaine Defoe, advice good or bad, he had plenty of time to make a proper apology. You know, once he thought better of it. I didn't hear one for a very long time. He just made the excuse that his agent kind of pushed him into it or whatever. Okay, fine, that might be the case. But I didn't ever see him being particularly contrite. I've never seen Lampard be particularly contrite. Some of the things he said about the club since he left were not very nice, so he can kiss my arse. Paul Ince being pictured in a Man United jersey while he was still a West Ham player, even if it was leaked by somebody else, he still shouldn't be doing it. It was disrespectful, whether we'd seen it or not. So he can fuck off as well, as far as I'm concerned. I don't want any of them near West Ham. So it's not a question of forgiveness, really. I just don't want them around West Ham, any of them. So yeah, to me, the whole forgive and forget thing. I understand, look, if people are of the opinion forgive and forget, I have no problem with that. Some people, that's their proclivity. They just put it behind them, forget it ever happened or whatever. I'm not one of them. I think there's a lot of West Ham fans feel the same way. I don't forget. The forgive thing is the easy bit. Like, the forgive is fine. I don't give a shit about these guys. I don't think about them. But I will not forget what they did, because it was bang out of order. Some of the stuff Lampard saying that he'd look for the, you know, when he was at Chelsea with Joe Cole, saying that Joe Cole would look for the West Ham result and be really happy if we'd won or be disappointed if we'd lost, whereas he would smile if we'd lost. You know, he'd be delighted that we were beaten. So I don't buy this, you know, West Ham at heart bollocks. I don't think any of them are. And so, you know, they mean nothing to me, and I don't want them anywhere near the club, frankly.
How about yourself, James? You, I mean, do you think that, given that a lot of them were, as Fritz said, very, very young, do you think that maybe you could use that as mitigation for any of them?
They might be young, but they was adults, and they also were players who knew exactly what they were doing. It started with Jermaine Defoe. Jermaine Defoe put a transfer request in like a day after we got relegated in 2003. So that's not a person who I want around the club, who's prepared to jump ship when the going gets tough. Points for me, personally, I can't really reflect back on. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously I was at an age growing up. I heard about it. I know exactly what he done with the Manchester United shirts and etc. But that, for me, I can't really answer. And the Frank Lampard one is a funny one. I have to laugh when people say about he has to come back and be manager of his club. That's an embarrassment, in my opinion. Lampard isn't fit to manage any club at the minute, and I don't want him to manage this one. He's a man who was here for special treatment from Harry Redknapp, and here he was a good player. But he didn't. I'll not forget when every time he played West Ham, he scored a goal. He was kissing Chelsea's badge and everything. So I'm sorry. I want people who are prepared to fight for the claret and blue, and not people who are prepared to jump ship. In my opinion.
Fair. And just finishing that off with Lee, have you got a standpoint of, are we sort of holding a grudge for too long, or are you pretty much, you might be able to forgive, but you can't forget?
I think in football, you always need pantomime villains, don't you? The crowd always have to have someone you love to hate and someone to boo and sing songs about. And I think Jermaine Defoe and Paul Ince, I think they both were young at the time. They was both poorly advised, but they still made really bad mistakes. I think I might be wrong. I think they've both apologised since, and they've both spoken well of West Ham as they've got older. Paul Ince, yeah, the photo might have been leaked of him in the Man United shirt, but the fact doesn't change that the next day at Stoke, away to Stoke on the opening day of the season, the game when McAvenny broke his leg, Paul Ince didn't move out of the centre circle for the whole game. He could have still done his best in the shirt while he was still there. This is the day after the photo come out. And Jermaine Defoe, one of the most promising young strikers in the country at the time. No one can blame him for not wanting to play in the Championship. But and again, I don't know if this is true, but the story I heard was that he already had his transfer note wrote out in the inside jacket of his suit pocket, hanging up in the dressing room at St Andrews, ready to hand in as soon as the final whistle went if we'd gone down, And if that is an exaggeration, it's not much of one because, as we know, it was announced publicly the very next day. The day then West Ham fans have gone to work on the Monday. We've just been relegated. West Ham fans are getting stick, and one of your better young players is handing in a transfer request. That's that very same day. You've got a long summer to sort that out. But they was young. They've made stupid mistakes. I think they have shown sympathy. Apologised since. I think the worst one for me is Frank Lampard. I think he was a little bit older than the other two at the time, if I'm not wrong. And he's quite an intelligent man. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was saying. And the bit that don't make sense to me is the fact that as soon as he went to Chelsea, he started saying things like, it's great to be at a proper club. The training at West Ham was a shambles, was a joke, was Sunday League football compared to this. Yeah, it was his uncle and his dad that was organising that training, which makes it such a ridiculous thing to say. And it's such a shame because I don't know if there's some of the guys on this call may not be as old as me and you, Rob, and remember Frank Lampard Senior playing, but what a club legend he was, 600 odd games or whatever it was. And that just makes it all the more hurtful for him to come out like that. And I don't think he's never apologised or regretted what he said. I didn't know what was just said there about Joe Cole looking out for West Ham result and wanting us to win even in the dressing room for Chelsea. That's great to hear. And he's always had a clap when he's come back. He returned even towards the end of his career. As for Lampard, I wouldn't welcome him back at the club. Just for the pure fact that I wouldn't want him as manager regardless of what happened, even if he'd never played for West Ham. His record, what he's done at Everton, what he's done elsewhere. I wouldn't want him back at the club anyway, regardless of anything like that. But so yeah, the foe and Inter got some sympathy for, but Lampard no.
Fair. We've got a question that's been submitted via live chat, and if any of you guys want to jump a question, I can't promise we're going to get through everyone's questions. I've got a couple of video questions. I've got lots of other things up my sleeve, and we're going to be finishing just before 9 o'clock, guys. So if you get a question in, I'll do my best to get to it, but I can't make any promises. But Hammer 89 has done just that. So I'll start with you, James, on this one, if I may. This is a question, says, what do you think about the Noble rumours and about players wanting Moyes out? What's your thoughts on that, James?
Mark Noble cares about West Ham United Football Club. He always has done. He always will do. If you want someone to trust Mark Noble, because he ain't going to steer you wrong. He's going to want what's best for West Ham United. If the players want Moyes out, that just says it all. When you see and hear different things through social media and through the grapevine, that Moyes is asking players their opinions on how to play, then we've basically got a manager who has got no fucking idea what he's doing, basically. So it wouldn't surprise me if they want him out. Let's be honest. The last game papers over the cracks for me. And in regards of Noble, if Noble's here, he will have a voice. But how long would he have a voice for before he starts getting tired of this and thinks, you know what, I don't need the ag, in my opinion.
Fair. Budgie, your thoughts is on the situation yesterday relating to Mark Noble and players wanting Moyes out, apparently.
As far as the Mark Noble issue is concerned, I would question why, if he has done that, if he has offered to resign or whatever the case may be, I would question his motive for doing that. I mean, he was a loyal servant to the club for more than 18 years, but he had 18 years as a senior player, 8 or 9 years as a captain, loyal servant, as James said. But why would he say that, after just a month in his new job? There's obviously something very, very wrong at the back, in the back rooms. And that's obviously been highlighted by the club, by the players, by saying that they didn't want to play for him and that they're playing for themselves and the fans. Now, I listened to, who was it I was listening to earlier? Claret and Booze. And they were saying that, even Declan Rice has been vocal on that he doesn't want to play for Moyes anymore.
Really?
So, yeah. And that has apparently come from somebody that knows the players.
Wow.
I don't know who, but that's, a very good source by all accounts. And it wasn't Gary, it was the other one, Nick. It was Nick that was doing the show, and he was absolutely convinced that wasn't a rumour, that was a fact.
Wow. Tommy, what's your thoughts on the situation involving Noble?
Yeah, that was quite a shock, actually. I mean, he only took up the role on the 2nd of January, and then to hear essentially a couple of weeks later that he's offered his resignation, and so a meeting has had to be called, and that they've managed to iron it out. Now, obviously, I'm not privy to what exactly the situation was there and why Mark Noble felt his position was untenable. I suspect it was the amount of power that he has and what his actual role is. There was obviously a disconnect, I expect, on what Mark Noble was expecting his role to be and what he found that his role actually was going to be, which would be bizarre because you would think that would be known by all parties and would be clear before he took the job. But whatever it was, hopefully it means that Mark Noble does actually have more power now than the board wanted him to have, because I agree with Budgie. I think he's got or with James that he's got West Ham's best interests at heart at all times, and he'll want to do what's right for the club. And so the more power he has, the better. So thankfully it's been ironed out, and hopefully Mark will be with us for a long time, and fingers crossed he'll do a great job. As for the players, some of the players maybe not wanting to play for Moyes, that again, I don't know the veracity of these claims, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think it's obviously gone very stale. David Moyes clearly does not really know how to turn this thing around. I think the players maybe have lost faith in his ability to do so. I doubt very much the players enjoy the style of play and the way that they're set up to play. And they certainly don't like losing as much as they're losing. And the fact that it's been going on for some time now, it doesn't surprise me that there probably are a lot of players who would like to see a change.
Fair. Lee, what's your thoughts on the situation involving Mark Noble? I mean, it's typical West Ham. It seems to be absolute chaos. 20 odd days into the job, and a guy that was the captain of the club for many, many years, he's possibly handing in his resignation.
Yeah, Rob. I wonder if if we look at after Bobby Moore packed up playing football, and whenever the press talk about Bobby Moore, it often gets mentioned about how terrible he was treated by the club,
Yes.
how he wasn't kept on in some way, and I wonder if it's a little bit of that. And with Noble retiring from the playing side, and the club was keen to retain him, on the payroll, to have him involved and still be at West Ham, but because he hasn't got a lot of experience any really experience managerially or as a sporting director or anything. I wonder if the club have just sort of stuck him in a dummy role, just to appease the fans, to keep Mr. West Ham is still about and still involved, but didn't actually give him any real power to make any decisions or be in charge of anything. And sort of 2 weeks in, he's maybe realising this, and he's saying, if he's going to be here, he wants to be involved, he wants to make decisions, and he wants to, guide the direction of the club. And
what do you think about just this one here? If I can bring this to your attention, if I may, Lee, from Tony Hammer Ryan, he says Noble wants to sack Moyes and the board won't let him. Now, I don't know if that's fact or whether that's just sort of maybe sort of whispers or whatever. But I mean, could you see any truth in that?
I from what I could see from the outside, I thought Noble had a good relationship with Moyes. Moyes always paid him a lot of respect. He kept him on as the club captain, even though he wasn't, as we know, in the starting 11. I never sort of saw any sort of fallout between the two of them. And being a West Ham man, and we're known for our loyalty, and loyalty from the fans, but also loyalty from the board and backing managers at times. We went through bad times under John Lyall. We got relegated under John Lyall, and they stood by him. And we could end up this season. This might sound a little bit hopeful, but we could end up halfway up the table, which is maybe a little bit disappointing of late after the last couple of years. But it's not too bad considering where we normally finish. But in a European Cup final, and bringing back the first proper trophy since 1980, and a European one at that. And what a great season that'd be. It'd be something we'd be talked about for the next 30 or 40 years to come, wouldn't it? So I know it's been disappointing in the league with the money that we spent, but I can't see that Noble's trying to force him out.
We're not winning any trophies under Moyes ever. We're not going to win the Conference League.
I agree. Bang on.
Yeah, I'm concerned.
I'll tell you what it is. I heard what Lee was saying there. Yeah, just to counter what he's saying. He said about where we usually are. That's the mentality that we've got to change at West Ham United Football Club right now. West Ham, the moment we left Upton Park, our mentality should be top 12 every year at least, minimum. We should be anywhere near the bottom with the amount of fans that we get into that ground, the amount of fans we take away from home every year in, year out, wherever on this planet. The West Ham mentality has got to change. We're not at Upton Park no more, and that's gone. Yeah, we're at the LS now, and our mentality has to be top 10 every year without fail, basically. Really, like you're going to have the odd season where it might not be right, but as a fan base and as a club, if you want West Ham to progress, we haven't won a trophy in 43 years, and it's about time we won one, I think. And I think it should start this year, but not with Moyes at the end of the day.
Do you see Sorry, Budge.
Sorry. All I said, James said, not with Moyes, and I said, who then?
Well, it's got to be someone who's got a winning mentality. Let's be honest. Like a winning mentality breeds a winning team. You've only got to look at other managers.
So Dyche is obviously off your list then.
Well, basically, Dyche is a top-end Championship manager, bottom-end Premier League manager. If you want to go and express yourself as a manager, you go out and get Sporting Lisbon's manager, or you go out and get someone like a Vincent Kompany who could develop over a period of time, who could possibly be a Manchester City's future manager.
Or someone like Ancelotti, who's been there and done it.
But then Ancelotti is very much not a loyal person. He proved it with Everton.
He was
at Everton, and once he got a better offer, he jumped ship. it's just the mentality has got to change at West Ham United. And I think some people keep going back to, oh, we're just going to put up with it. The problem is if West Ham go down, then West Ham could do a Leeds and not come back for a long time. That's the only problem.
Do you think it's a mentality thing, Lee? Do you think James has got a point there?
No, I totally get what you're saying, but every club and every team goes through a little bit of a downturn in their results from time to time. And look at both Chelsea and Liverpool. This season, how much they'll feel they're underachieving compared to their usual standard. Last year, last couple of years, Man United have been well below their usual standard. The year before that, we finished above Arsenal and Spurs.
Yeah, but do you know what it is, though, Lee? Just to come in there, none of them teams that you've mentioned have got the threat of going down. West Ham have always got a threat of going down. Yeah,
because their best standard, over history, has been higher than our best standard. So when we have a slump, our slump's bigger than their slump. So I totally get that. And it could be a disaster. Well, it would be a disaster if we go down.
But that comes down to mentality as well, though, Lee.
Yeah.
When our slumps are bigger than anyone else's, that's got to come down to mentality. That's not down to talent.
I wouldn't say our slumps are bigger than anyone else's, because you've got teams that I remember growing up as a kid who were established top flight teams like Sheffield Wednesday and Nottingham Forest. I mean, Forest have just recently come back up, but for the first time in donkey's years. Teams that are big teams that have gone down and then gone down again. Every time West Ham have ever gone down, I've seen us get relegated about 5 times, I think. But we've always come back up in a season or two. I mean, every club can talk about mentality and stuff. And I just think that I think Moyes is for me. I was getting to the point where I thought he should go. And I think if we'd have lost Saturday, I don't think the board would have maybe not had much choice, because you couldn't carry on. But we've just picked up a big important win. I think there's that 1 defeat in 4 now, is it? If you count the Brentford game in the cup as well, draw at Leeds. I think he's earned an extra couple of weeks at least.
The only problem is with that, just to say this, is if we was playing Newcastle last Saturday and we would have lost that game, he would have been gone. We play a team that is worse than us, and basically that was he sort of get out of jail free card, basically. Do you know what I mean? Now the problem is with that, you're going to have this geezer here for another 3 games, 3-4 games. You're going to have him against Newcastle, Chelsea, Tottenham. If it comes to the Forest game on the 25th of February, are we going to be sitting there going, oh, it's make or break for Moyes? If he wins that, is he going to get another 2, 3, 4 games? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I need to see improvement against Newcastle United away. I need to see when we play Chelsea that we're going to try and play in a way that we're going to look to win and not look to try and contain them. Like, I would rather West Ham, this is me personally, I'd rather West Ham go at teams. And if we have a go and we go down fighting, then so be it. But I'm not a sort of person who wants to sit there and just wait to get beaten, basically, if that makes sense.
Tommy, what are your thoughts? You agree with largely what the chaps say, or do you have an alternate point of view?
No, I think it's ridiculous that he's still in the job. Absolutely ridiculous. Given we have actually assembled a very, very decent Premier League squad now. We really have. We spent money on it. And, for us to be where we are in the table is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace for us to be looking over our shoulder, looking at the weekend to see how have Bournemouth done. It's a fucking joke. He should not be still in a job. This is ridiculous. It's like buying a thoroughbred racehorse and using it to pull carts. If we're gonna spend all this money assembling an expensive squad and quite a talented one, even in Premier League terms, then surely we need a manager who can get the best out of them. David Moyes is never going to do that. He's a poverty manager. This is a man who went to one of the biggest clubs in world football, Manchester United, and bought Marouane Fellaini. That tells you everything you need to know about David Moyes. He's at a club who should be bringing in the best midfielders in the world and assembling an amazing team that can go and win Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. And he buys Marouane Fellaini. He's showing videos to Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic of fucking what's the name? Everton.
Was it Jagielka, wasn't it?
Saying, "Yeah, I'm going to show you how Phil Jagielka defends." It's like, are you taking the fucking piss? It's like, that's the man's mindset. He cannot take players like Scamacca and Paqueta, Royce, etc., and really proper players who can really do bits. He doesn't know how to manage these players, and we're seeing it now. And this has been going on for over a year. Our results in the Premier League have been a disgrace for over a year. And I can't believe he's still in a job. And it just goes to show that the board's mentality, that they're, we didn't move for this. We didn't leave the bowling ground for this. And to be fair, the board have spent the money and then won't bring in a manager who can get the job done and get the most out of this massively expensive squad. Some of them on seriously good money. And I think they need to wake the fuck up that you can't have a squad like this and then expect someone like David Moyes.
With all the money that they've spent, Tommy, it's going to be a huge chunk of money to get rid of Moyes and take on another manager. Have they got the money to do that right now? You think?
Can I just say something there? We'll spend 163 million going up, but we won't spend 5 million or 10 million pounds on a manager that can come in and develop us. Like, I don't understand it. Like,
it's going to take more than 5 million for us to get a decent manager.
If you went and got someone out, if you went and got the Sporting Lisbon manager, you could buy him out of your contract. What I'm saying is we are going to spend X amount of pounds on a player. We're going to spend 50 million pounds on Lucas Paqueta, but we won't go out and spend it out on a manager that's got a winning mentality. We'll go for the cheap and cheerful option. Yet again, it's always has been.
Yeah, but we always have done.
Yeah, no, but that's
so why do you think he's going to do any different now?
But
why do you think Sullivan will do any different?
If you continue to do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. And West Ham haven't won a trophy in 43 years. 43.
I know that. You know that, and everyone on the panel knows that.
And before
Sullivan is the one you have to fucking convince, mate.
100%. I agree with you on that. One thing I will say, I do agree with you on that. But it all goes back to mentality. If you're going to go and get a lower end manager, you're going to get a lower end team. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
Take peanuts, get monkeys.
But exactly that. But the club have only ever done that. So what? With the exception of Pellegrini, and he was a fucking failure. But other than him, what other big named managers have we ever gone for? We haven't.
No.
We've always gone for the cheaper option, which is why
for a long time in our history, we promoted from within. It was always sort of like you'd get someone that was like the assistant manager or a coach of a sort of like one of the youth grade teams. When the old manager was gone, they'd come in by and large. The one exception to that was back in the day was Ron Greenwood. He wasn't connected to West Ham. He was connected to Chelsea. But by and large, a lot of the managers have come through the ranks sort of thing. But obviously football's changed an awful lot since then. Right, I've got another video question I am just going to pull up for you, gentlemen. This question is from our friend, another Hammers Chatterer patron. It's Charlie.
Got a question for your guests. And I'm going to be a bit greedy. I'm going to ask a three-part question, but all around the topic of the youth system. Firstly, do guests feel, like I do, that West Ham fans tend to overhype, overrate, and expect far too much in general of our under-18s and under-21s? And to follow that, there's obviously a lot of criticism with David Moyes at the moment and previous past West Ham managers for not bringing through enough academy players. Isn't it just the case that our academy and the quality of player that comes through our academy just aren't at the level that they once were? Largely in part down to the creation of the Premier League and bringing excessive amounts of money into the game, allowing rivals such as Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal to create these super academies that hoover up all the best talent, especially locally, and then more often than not loan them out until they're ready for the first team, if they ever are. And to my final part of the question, if you were a young, talented, aspiring footballer in London, would you join West Ham's academy, irrespective of who the first team manager is?
Controversial. I'll tell you what. We'll start with you, Lee. Let you can jump in with this one. What are your thoughts on what Charlie's just gone through there? Are we overhyping the young players, or maybe is it underutilization? Where's the problem?
Well, I think we spoke about this a little bit on our WhatsApp group the other week, Rob, and there's not many young players that we've released that have gone on to have great Premier League careers, elsewhere. And the fact is, at the age of 18, 19, you do get a lot of youngsters that look like world beaters, and then they end up playing in non-league football, So it is difficult. Like, it'd be great to have all these youngsters coming through, and I know we've got a really, really good bunch of the under 18s running away with their league at the moment. I mean, of late, I think Josh Cullen was released. Wasn't given much of a chance. Apparently, he's playing really well at Burnley. They're at the top of the Championship. He could be back in the Premiership next year. And other than that, there's none that we've released in the last 5 years that I can think of that have gone on somewhere else and had a career. I mean, if we're talking more recently, obviously Harrison Ashby looks like he wants to go. He's been saying that since the summer, so I think that's probably why he's not got as much of a chance this season than what he might have done. And obviously Sonny Perkins as well has gone to Leeds, but I think he scored a goal in the FA Cup the other week, but I think he's played 2 games for them. So we had people calling for him to be in the West Ham first team 2 years ago. 2 years later, he's not getting a game for Leeds either. So it's a big step. And with the money that clubs have got to spend, you've got to be a really special talent to come through as a youngster nowadays, I think.
Throw that over to you, Budgie. What's your thoughts? Are we overhyping the players, expecting too much?
I'm, with all respect to Charlie, the guy that submitted the question, how the fuck can you overrate or overhype a group of players that last season stormed PL2 and this season are doing a very similar thing already? I don't think you can overhype them. Maybe they're not ready for the Premiership. Maybe that's, we're guilty of expecting that. But no, we're not overhyping them. They're smashing it in PL2. You can't overhype that. All you can do is praise it. As far as, wanting to join the West Ham Academy, that really depends on how much the kid knows about the history of the club, I suppose. Whether they support the club or not, I would think would have something to do with it. But if you're talking about generally around, say, for example, around my local town, which is Crawley, in Sussex, you probably wouldn't have kids wanting to join the West Ham Academy because literally 300 yards away from my house is a school that is, a major Chelsea academy. And it's not the only one in the area. So, you're probably right in that respect, Charlie, that they probably wouldn't want to join the academy. And the ones that do are obviously either, they've been chosen or selected by the club and have agreed to come and train with us, etc. Or they're fans, but the academy certainly isn't producing the kind of players it was 20 years ago.
I've got a funny feeling you might have a word or two to say on this, Tom.
Yeah, this has been a bugbear for me now for some time. And when Noble took over in his new role, one of the things I really hope that he gets his teeth into is the academy. Like I say, we have a proud history. I mean, we call ourselves the Academy of Football, which has become a bit of an embarrassment in recent years because we're not anymore. I think Noble needs to take a look at the academy, make sure that it's being run correctly, that it's getting the funding it needs, and that there is a pathway for our very best youngsters to progress into the first team. So I don't know the exact state of the academy. at the moment. It could be that Budgie's right. Maybe the academy just does not produce players anymore. And if it doesn't, then that has to be addressed. But I think it's also true with the current manager, certainly with David Moyes, that he has no interest in developing any of our best youth prospects. I think it's a disgrace, actually, that he hasn't brought a single player through in the entire time he's been here.
Not true.
Also allowing some very good young prospects to leave the club. Particularly, I think Ashby. Ashby looks a really, really good young prospect, and he should have had some kind of pathway to at least prove himself. I'm convinced that had David Moyes been in charge of this club when Declan Rice and Ben Johnson were coming through, they would have been sold. They would not have had a chance under David Moyes to make their way into the first team, and particularly Rice to become the player he's become. And I understand the people saying, okay, we've released a lot of players, very few come back to bite you on the ass. But I think when you release a young, very talented player, I think it can completely change the trajectory of their career. It's quite a devastating thing for them a lot of the time, and maybe they don't really recover. Whereas I think if they'd been given an opportunity, then they might have been able to prove themselves. And look, not everyone who comes through is going to be a Declan Rice. Some of them will be a Mark Noble. You know, Mark Noble had an amazing career for us. We call him Mr. West Ham. Well, he was never like a world superstar. He was never world class or anything like that. But we were very proud of the fact that he'd come through our academy and he was our captain and he was a good player for us that gave us many, many years. So we've got to get a handle on the academy right now. And I mean, making sure that we're producing very, very good youngsters at a reasonable rate. Obviously, most youngsters will not make it at Premier League level. That's just the way it is. But we have to be producing some. And when we do, they have to have a pathway. They have to have an opportunity to prove themselves at West Ham. Otherwise, we're wasting our time completely. And you may as well do what Brentford do and just get rid of it completely and get rid of this ridiculous Academy of Football moniker because we're not living up to it.
I know, James, that you are someone that likes to try and, when you get the opportunity, to pop and see the youth grade teams at your local Dagenham and Redbridge. You've obviously got a bit of a vested interest in the youth team, clearly. So, again, what are your thoughts here?
We've got a manager who don't invest in any sort of youth. He never has done, never will do. One thing I will say is times have changed since 20 years ago. That's one thing I will say. West Ham depended on the youth 20 years ago. West Ham don't depend on the youth anymore. Like the finances now and everything. And there's a lot at stake with West Ham. West Ham haven't got time to go and bring a player in and try and develop him if West Ham are struggling, for instance. So I understand what people are saying. Obviously, we've grown up with the youth. Like for me, in that sort of 99 era, with like Rio and Lampard, Cole, Carrick, Defoe, to name all them lot, they was all good players. And we have got some good players, but we just don't see them. And they don't really get the opportunity anymore. They have to go to a lower club, like a championship club, and make a name for themselves to come back to the Prem. And it's not right, don't get me wrong. And sometimes I do look at it and I think sometimes our management doesn't do the job really to sort of let them in and give them a go. So it is a problem. Would I, Charlie said, would I sign for West Ham right now? I would do, because if I'm an aspiring footballer, you go to one of the top clubs in London. Do you know what I'm saying? So really, it's all about their ambition.
Opportunity, James. If you're not going to get an opportunity because you look at the manager and go, well, he's not really bringing anyone through. If you believe that, would you still, even though you're a West Ham fan?
But there's no guarantee that you go to any other club and go and get in, would you? Like, you've got to work for it also. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, you've still got to graft, whether or not you're at Charlton Athletic or West Ham United Football Club. So, like, it doesn't really matter. I understand what you're saying. You are right. But if you're good enough, you will get through eventually. Do you know what I'm saying? And if you don't, someone else will pick you up in the Premier League, i.e. Harrison Ashby, and like he can flourish somewhere else.
I'm just going to quickly put the spotlight back onto you, Budge. When Tommy was saying about not bringing players through. You said, I believe, twice, not true, not true. So
Yeah.
what's your point of view on that then?
Well, James also said, never has, never will bring the youth through. Who gave Ben Johnson his chance?
Manuel Pellegrini, wasn't it?
Pellegrini did. Manchester
Was
City
it?
away. Yeah.
Okay. How many times did he play?
Sorry, Budge, just backing you up here.
Yeah,
Pellegrini
carry
might
on,
have given him
son.
his debut, but it was under Moyes that Ben Johnson became a regular in the first team and in the squad.
But he's not a regular.
And considered by all us lot.
Yeah. I'm not being funny enough here. Ben Johnson's not exactly a world beater, and let's be honest, I don't think he even wants to be here. The only real player that's come through the academy is Declan, and he ain't even one of ours. He's one of Chelsea's. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's problem,
unfair,
isn't it?
James. That's unfair. He came to us at 14 years old, right at the perfect time in development for a kid.
Well, but did we pick him up?
Well, obviously he's here.
I'll tell you what, on the Ben Johnson question, I think Moyes has ruined him.
Yeah, I agree on that.
I think Moyes has ruined him. Here's a young lad who's
I don't agree with that. Let
me explain what I mean. Here's a young lad who's a right back, right? Who comes into the first team under Pellegrini, and then Moyes decides that he's going to turn a very promising young right back into a utility player. Ben Johnson has played right back, right centre back, right wing back, left wing back. How is a young player expected to develop? Like Ben Johnson, if he'd been played at right back and developed as a right back under David Moyes, could now be a tremendous right back. But Moyes has turned him into a bloody utility player who's having to try to learn 5 or 6 different bloody positions. Doesn't know.
He also turned Declan into a midfielder, Tommy. That's no argument, mate.
And so what bloody chance has a youngster got to develop if he's trying to learn 5 or 6 different positions? He's going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. He should have been put in at right back and developed as a right back. And who knows what kind of a right back we could have in our hands at this point. So I think Ben Johnson has had no chance personally under Moyes.
I agree.
I take you obviously don't agree there, Tom. Sorry, Budgie. You don't agree with Tommy there, Budgie. What about yourself?
No.
You on side with Budge? Do you think that Ben Johnson has been hampered by David Moyes, or has he helped him?
I think being the position that I played myself, being a right back or a right side centre half in a free or a right wing back, they are very similar positions.
They're not. They're all defensive, but they're completely different jobs.
Yeah, they are different jobs, but they're all in the same area of the pitch.
They're all totally different jobs.
But the problem is with that. I just want to say something. No one on this panel can tell me where Ben Johnson's best position is, because we just don't know. Like 1 minute he's playing in midfield. Right, he's played as a midfielder. Tommy reeled them all off, but he forgot the midfield. He's played in midfield before, and Moyes said about playing him in midfield at one stage. Like, I'm not being funny. Ben Johnson is a average Premier League footballer. He's not going to get in any top 6, top 8 side in the Premier League, other than us, really, in my opinion. And I think he's overhyped. Declan Rice is one of a kind. He's a world class footballer, but Ben Johnson isn't.
I remember the same stuff being said about another player a while back. Glenn Johnson, I know, no relation, I know, but I remember a few people being very negative about him because he was being utilised. Look what happened to him. He had a really good career. So
not everyone's the same, though, are they, Budge?
No, they're not. They're not. Yeah. No, but David Moyes has turned Declan Rice into probably one of the most desirable midfielders in the world. I'm not saying that we should keep Moyes. What I'm saying is give him credit for what he has done and what he has achieved. And none of you guys have yet.
He has not brought a single player through, not one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what credit exactly he's expecting for.
I don't understand. I'll just back Tommy up on that. I don't understand what credit I've got to give this man. He's an employee at West Ham United Football Club. He's paid to do a job. If I don't do my job properly, I don't get paid, and he gets paid. He hasn't really done a good job, really. He's done a good job in the last 2 years. But this season, if he carries on going the way he's going, he's selling us down. Simple as that.
Agreed. I agree with that. But, there's certain times when we tend to forget how well he has done at this club. and we should credit him with the credit that he's due. That's all I'm saying.
I'm happy.
That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely happy to give him credit for bringing us to 6th place and 7th and getting us to Europa League semi-final. That was a lot of fun. I loved every minute of that. No one's trying to rob him of any credit, Budgie. It's just you can't fucking live off it.
No, true. But who's to say he's not going to bring us the Europa Conference League title?
But would you sacrifice? But would you sacrifice the Europa? Like, I'm not being funny or nothing. I wouldn't sacrifice the conference to stand the Prem. I would want to be in the Premier League. Like, I think the Premier League.
Why can't we do both?
Because if that is the case, over the last 12, 13 months, why has he only won 6 or 8 games or whatever it is in the Premier League? The reason is, and what people keep forgetting also, right, and they keep forgetting this, is January last year, we nearly went out to Kidderminster Harriers. Like, if it wasn't for Declan Rice, that world-class player, that would have been the most embarrassing defeat in West Ham's history. Like, so we've got to address this situation at West Ham right now, and Moyes is a problem. He is a problem.
I agree. He is a problem.
Got to move on to the next question now, gents. Right, we've got one video question left. It is from our friend Mr. Steve 50. So take it away, Steve.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Steve 50 here. Quick question. Do you think all the fuss around Declan Rice leaving and him deciding where he's going to go is destabilising in the dressing room? Do you think his performances have dropped off? And finally, do you think he's the best captain at the moment for the club?
Over to you, James. That one's yours.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. For me, Aguerd should be West Ham's captain. Nayef Aguerd should be West Ham's captain 100%. And if Declan goes in the summer, which I believe he does, Nayef Aguerd is the man. Like, he's an absolute born leader, very good defender, and he will galvanise his team. Has Declan been good this year? He's been average on his world-class standard. Declan Rice is a world-class footballer, and I won't ever take that away from him. Yeah, he's an absolute top class. But for West Ham, he's been hit and miss this season. Like, he hasn't been the vintage Declan Rice over the last 2 years. Whether or not that's because of a move that he's looking at, and also what he said in the World Cup interviews about he wants to play, he wants to win trophies and all that. It's very disheartening to hear that when one of your main men wants to go out the door and go and win stuff, and none of us have seen us win stuff for years. So I think he has dropped off a little bit. I would let him go in the summer, and for me, use the money, rebuild this squad, and make us stronger moving forward.
So you wouldn't be tempted to sort of cash in this transfer window? Because there was something I saw online. Someone turned around and said, if we get relegated, obviously his value is going to diminish greatly. So is there an argument to be said that maybe, cashing in now is the option to do?
The thing is, if we cash in now, we could still get relegated. So, like, at the end of the day, I'd rather have the man here. One thing I can't question is his commitment to West Ham United Football Club. That's one thing I can't question. He will fight all the way to the end. And do you know what? I'd rather have him here to get us out of trouble. And if he wants to go in the summer, I wish him all the best.
How about yourself, Lee? Where are you at, Declan Rice?
Obviously, I think that we could have lost him after the Euros, to be honest. And I certainly think we could have lost him last summer. So I don't think it's affected. I don't think that speculation has affected his form because, or the team's form, because I think deep down we all know that he's not going to stay at the club as long as Mark Noble did. And no disrespect to Noble, but Declan Rice is a better player than he was. And I don't think any of us would blame Declan for wanting to move on and win trophies in his career. I think he's given us a decent amount of time, and I don't think he's ever let us down when he's put the shirt on. His performances this season have not quite been at the really high standard of the last couple of years every week, but then he's playing in a struggling team rather than a winning one, so that's always going to make a difference as well. And if he goes, good luck to him. I don't think we can argue with that.
Who would your choice be at the next captain, whether it happens the next match or whether it happens after Declan Rice departs? Who are you looking at the minute from the current crop of players and thinking he's the next incumbent as the captain, Lee?
I think the next captain left the club this week, unfortunately, for me. Craig Dawson. Obviously, it's not going to be him because he has just moved away, but that's the sort of character you want. And it's hard to say. It's not just about what you do on the pitch; it's about what you do in the dressing room. And I've been captain at every club I've played for. In my very lower down career, but it's what happens in the dressing room is a big deal about being captain. And you don't always see that out on the pitch, do you? So it's hard to say, really.
Fair. How about yourself, Tom?
As for affecting the other players, all this talk of Declan moving, no, not for a second. But these are professional footballers. They all move. They all change clubs. They all have this stuff going on at various times in their career. Teammates come and go. They know this is just football. This is how it's played, how the game is done. So I don't think it affects his teammates whatsoever. I don't think it's affected Declan Rice's form. I agree with James. He hasn't quite hit the heights this season that he did last season, but he's still playing bloody well and still one of our most important players. So I don't think it's affecting his desire to do well for West Ham or to play well. I think he still kind of comes out and gives it his all. I think it's just this season is affecting everyone really, how badly it's going, and obviously confidence isn't fantastic, and they're probably not enjoying their football as much as they maybe have the last couple of seasons. So I think that maybe kind of explains his little bit of dip in form, but he's still playing very, very well. As for the captaincy, no, I didn't have a problem with him getting the captaincy. I was all for it, to be completely honest. At the time, when Noble was retiring, it felt like it was the right thing to give it to Declan. So I can't be a hypocrite now and say we shouldn't have given it to him. But in hindsight, perhaps it wasn't the right time for him. Maybe it was a bit too soon. But I agree with James. I think when Rice very likely does move on this summer, I think Naya Faguerd, for me, is the obvious choice for the armband.
How about yourself, Budge? You think Naya Faguerd might be the next captain of West Ham?
No. In a word. For me,
good. Glad we've got some disagreement.
Yeah. No, for me, everyone's overlooked the most important player in our squad, as far as the fans are concerned, in my opinion, and that's Pablo Fornals. I think he's a perfect captain.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
Out for you?
Mate, listen, every time that man pulls the shirt on, he looks like he's going to wet his pants. He loves the club. He loves the players. He loves the supporters. He just loves being at West Ham, and for me, with his enthusiasm, his drive, you see the way he runs around the pitch and shouts and hollers at people and stuff. He's a captain to me, As far as Declan's concerned, has the interest in him affected himself and the other players? I agree with Tommy. With the other players, no, not in a million years. Professionalism. There may be some talk, but it's not affecting them, I don't think. It may have turned Dec's head slightly, but again, he's a professional, and when he pulls the shirt on, he gives 110% every time. But also on that, I think we should sell him if we got an offer this month. I think we should. Not necessarily to reinvest it straight away. I think stick it in the coffers, wait till summer, and pick the right person, I think, for half of the money that we get for him, if we sold him this month, we'd probably get a better part of 100 million for him. Okay. I'm not saying that it would be the 100, but the best part of it. We could stick 50 million into a replacement for him, and that'd be money well spent.
I'd love to debate this further, gentlemen, but time has beaten us once again. So I'm going to finish by saying, guys, I really appreciate you all coming on, giving your different perspectives, your different point of views, arguing your cases, and we will part as friends, and we will do this once again, I am sure, unless, of course, everybody comes back at me and says they thought it was a load of crap, in which case I might not bother. But if you are still sticking around, please, as it says there, don't forget to like, comment on, and share the stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure you hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support. I'm going to finish off. I'm going to go and have my dinner. And speaking of dinner, let's see if we can help the old Iron Supporting Food Bank charity. You know it makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Come on, you Irons. We'll see you next time. Take care. Forged from Iron is proud to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough, 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United Football Club, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, Expedient Security, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons.